They definitely had issues.
A missing mom.
It's been over 2 months since a young mother, Susan Powell, vanished without a trace.
A search for answers.
Did you ask him? Did you do something to her?
A parent's anguish.
My son-in-law is shut down. Josh is not helping find his wife.
And the questions.
Have you asked your grandchildren what they saw or knew?
That are on everyone's mind.
How have you kept from grabbing him by the shoulders and saying, tell me what you know about my daughter?
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
I know things are tough out there, but we can do this. If it matters to you, that's what I want to talk about.
10 seconds to air.
Love you.
Well, thank you. This is going to be a changing day in your life.
Ready, camera 5.
3, take track.
Go, Dr. Cal. Let's do it. You know, there are times over the years that we get to use this show for really special, powerful, and important reasons, and today is one of those days. I want you to imagine that you have a precious child. You nurture her, you raise her, you dance at her wedding, and then one day, she goes missing. Now, you're shocked when many of the signs begin to point to the person that she married, the person that has their hands on your grandchildren. Now think about that. Are they in danger? Could the person you trusted your child with for the rest of her life actually be the one to take her life? Could this really happen? What would you do if you were in that situation? Would you confront them? Would you beg for answers? Well, the truth is, it happens more than we know. Remember when the world was captivated by the disappearance of Laci Peterson on Christmas Eve, 2002. At first, no one suspected her husband, Scott, was involved, but as the case unfolded with odd alibis and stories that just didn't add up, it turned out that not only did Scott Peterson kill Laci, but also their unborn child. Did her family miss the warning signs? Would you know what to look for? Drew Peterson, a former Chicago police sergeant, shocked us as he is now charged with the murder of his third wife and a suspect in the disappearance of his fourth. His children continue to live with him after his wife's disappearance. Should the families of his wives have fought for custody? If you were in that situation, would you do that? The question today is, are we on the trail of another case just like these? These are the questions that we're going to handle today. It's been over 2 months since a young mother, Susan Powell, vanished without a trace. Police found her keys, purse, and cell phone left at the home she shared with her husband, Josh, and 2 young sons. Now, this story, too, seems to be filled with odd alibis and stories that just don't quite add up. Take a look at what has unfolded since Susan disappeared.
Family and friends pray for the safe return of Susan Powell.
Her husband Josh said he last saw his wife on Sunday, December 6th. That's when he says he took his 2 little boys for a late-night camping trip on one of the coldest nights of the year. When he returned home, he said Susan was missing.
What time did you go camping, would you say?
I got out to a pretty late start.
9-ish, something like that?
No, it was later.
Where do you guys camp?
We went down south to some trails down there.
Joshua Powell said he went camping with his young boys on the Pony Express Trail. At this campsite, no Powell signature on the visitor register.
On Monday, neither Josh nor his wife show up to work, and Josh doesn't call his boss to say he won't be in.
Why didn't you call in sick or...
You know, I didn't, I was somehow thinking that it was Sunday.
So you got confused by on what day it was?
Yeah.
His timeline is unverified. Day 5 since the West Valley mom disappeared.
New details. Reports that when police went into the house looking for the couple, they found 2 electric fans running and pointing at a large wet spot on the carpet.
The search for Susan Powell enters its second week.
Police feeling their own frustration right now because Josh Powell was a no-show for his 3rd interview yesterday.
It's been nearly 2 months since Susan Powell disappeared.
But her friends and family don't want the public to forget she is still out there somewhere.
Well, it just seems to defy common sense. I'll bet bells are going off in your mind just as they are mine. The question is, what would you do? What if you're the parents of this missing girl? Now, Josh, Susan's husband, is now the person of interest in this case. He's not talking to anyone, including police. Now, later in the show, you're going to actually hear from his sister. But joining us now are Susan's parents, Chuck and Judy Cox, as well as family friend Shelby. Now, I want you to take a look at some of what they have had to say about the disappearance of Susan and the odd behavior of her husband, Josh.
I know Josh and Susan had their arguments. It seemed like it was reasonably fair between the two of them. We never saw any hint of violence.
I knew they had their ups and downs. I asked her about, how are you and Josh doing? She'd say, well, Josh is Josh, and that just meant we're doing okay.
Josh called me. He just told me that Susan was missing. When I found that out, my concern was, where on earth could she be? What could have happened? I don't know if Josh knows where Susan is. I do know he was the last person to see her. And I don't believe that Susan would allow him to take him out camping in the middle of the night.
I don't think Josh as being capable of violence, but because he has been very quiet and not cooperating, it just makes me wonder why he's staying silent.
From all outside appearances, Josh has packed up and moved on with his life. That makes the Cox family feel like he knows something he's not sharing, because the rest of us are waiting for her to walk in the door.
When I ask him directly, do you know where Susan is? He says, no, I don't know where Susan is. And he kind of cuts off the conversation, changes the subject.
He will not speak anything about Susan, and I just find that strange and just upsetting.
The thing that bothers me most about this case is Josh's reluctance to help find Susan. He's not talking with the police, and he is not providing any more details. There's been nothing discovered to make us believe that Susan is dead. I can't let myself go there. I can't. So we hold out hope each day.
Okay, well, folks, I'm very glad to meet you, but very sorry for the circumstance. Chuck, what do you have to say about this at the top? I mean, this must just be excruciating.
I guess the important thing right now is Josh is not helping find his wife. We don't know where she is. My son-in-law is shut down. If he's not talking, somebody else has to know somebody.
It's my understanding that he says he took these 2 children at the time 2 and 4, and they've since had birthdays, but at the time 2 and 4, took them camping at midnight in December. Because I've been doing some research on this, and on December 7th at 12:30 a.m., the temperature was near 20 degrees with rain and snow at the house. He loads a 2- and 4-year-old up and drives 2 hours in the night, part of it over country, snow-covered roads, to a campsite where they estimate that the temperature then was between 15 and 25 degrees with howling winds. Is he a prolific camper?
No. No, not at all.
They come back, when the police go to the house, there are 2 fans blowing on a spot on the rug to dry it. Do we know why the fan was blowing on the carpet? Do we know why he rented a car and drove hundreds of miles the day after he got back?
I believe the police had his van the day after he got back, so he got a rental car, but because they were looking through the van, but we don't know where he went or why he would do that.
Chuck, how have you kept from grabbing him by the shoulders and shaking him till his head rattled and said, "Tell me what you know about my daughter."
Basically, right now, my daughter is gone, but we have 2 grandchildren, and...
Will he let you see the grandchildren?
Not at this time.
So you're blocked, you can't, can you go over to his house and see them?
We could go over to his father's house where he's living and possibly see them. The last time they were at our house was on January 3rd, in about 3 or 4 hours, and the children didn't want to leave, and I suspect, I don't know, then he had to, I don't know. That was the last time we saw him.
Well, I have some thoughts, some questions, and some advice. When we come back, we're going to hear from Josh's sister. Now, some believe her brother is guilty of Susan's disappearance. I mean, are y'all convinced that there's foul play here of some sort?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
You don't want to let your mind go to that he has killed her. I understand that. I even, it's painful for me to even say that, but you know that's a possibility. It's on the radar.
Oh, certainly.
And you know that you're convinced that there is foul play here, and you are very suspicious that he knows something about it or is involved in it.
We are absolutely convinced there's no way my daughter would allow her children out at that time in the morning without her with him. She would not have let him, if she was breath in her body, she would not let him out of the house with those kids at that time in the morning. I don't think any mother would.
All right, we'll be right back.
I've spent a lot of time crying, begging him to go and talk to the police, asking him, "Josh, please go tell the police everything. If you're innocent, you have nothing to worry about."
We're talking about a young mom who has vanished without a trace. On December 7th, both Susan Powell and her husband Josh failed to show up for work. When they did not drop off their 2- and 4-year-old children at daycare, the director contacted Josh's mother and sister, Jennifer. Now, here's what Jennifer and her husband, Kirk, say happened next.
One of the hardest things about this whole situation is that I'm kind of caught in the middle. My brother is a person of interest, but my sister-in-law, my good friend, is missing. On Monday, December 7th, we got a call from Josh and Susan's daycare provider. She'd said, "I haven't heard from them. I've gone over and knocked on the door and I've gotten no response." I was immediately concerned. We tried to call both of them multiple times, but it just kept going straight to voicemail. Something was really wrong. My mom and I went to their house. We pounded on the door with no response. So at that point, we were very disturbed. It's very unusual. And so we decided that it was worthy of calling the police. When the police entered the house, the first thing that was noticed was the 2 big box fans pointing at the carpet. We were like, what the heck is up with the fans? Later on that evening, Josh actually called me, and he said he didn't know where Susan was.
The biggest change in Josh since Susan has disappeared is that going from a man I knew before who would talk for hours, he is now somebody that you can barely get another word out of him. That's just stunning. Surprising.
The thing that has bothered me the most about Josh's behavior is that he has been uncooperative with the police and giving them any details. He also has been very reluctant to participate in the media arena either. That's our biggest tool in helping to find Susan. You're the husband. There's more that you can do, so get up and do it. There's a lot of speculation out there about if my brother is involved, and I hope that he hasn't done something, but the truth is going to come out eventually.
Well, Jennifer, Kirk, thank you guys for joining us. We're all here for the same reason, right? We want to draw attention to this. We want to do anything we can to find out what's happened to Susan. And I know you're torn here. We're talking about your brother. I've got 3 sisters, and I can only imagine how I would feel if one of them was a person of interest. It's got to be tough for you, right?
Absolutely.
Did you ask him, did you do something to her?
Sure, I asked him.
And what did he say?
He wouldn't respond. He literally doesn't say anything about it. He won't say either way.
Out of everybody that's talked about this, you and I seem to look at this pretty similarly, Kirk. What do you think's going on here?
Josh is the kind of guy that does weird stuff. But to put all the facts into one bundle, midnight, 20 degrees, December, the kids, all that just doesn't make any sense.
Was this marriage in a meltdown?
They definitely had issues.
Did anybody ask these children, did you go camping?
It's my understanding the police did interview the children, and the oldest child did say that they went camping. So.
But he has no idea where.
No, and as I understand it, it was a very brief interview with Josh present, and that's all they got.
All right, up next, we went to the campground where Josh allegedly took his 2- and 4-year-old sons in the middle of the night, and you won't believe what happened on the way. We'll be right back.
Modesto police are asking for help from the public in corroborating Scott Peterson's story that he went fishing in San Francisco Bay the day his wife Lacey vanished.
Lacey's family says they believe Scott lied to them and fear there may be even more lies. The overwhelming support that used to surround Scott Peterson. It now seems to be coming from a dwindling group. Only his immediate family is with him.
The bodies of a woman and baby that recently washed up in San Francisco Bay are those of Lacey Peterson and the child she was carrying.
The bodies were not far from where Scott Peterson says he went fishing the day Lacey disappeared.
Well, that was Scott Peterson telling his infamous fishing story alibi when he had actually murdered his wife. In the case of missing mom Susan Powell, her husband Josh has an odd alibi, clearly. He claims to have taken his 2-year-old sons camping after midnight in freezing temperatures to a campsite 2 hours outside of Salt Lake City. Well, we just wanted to see what that would be like. And it's similar time of year, still winter. We sent our field producer to the camp area. Take a look.
It's beautiful out here in the western desert of Utah, but quite desolate. The road has now become a dirt road. I just passed a road that says Last Chance Lane. Doesn't instill confidence. My rental car is stuck. I can't seem to get up this hill. And if I can't get up this hill with my car when there's been little snow, I'm not sure how any car, unless they had chains, would get up here. I'm probably within 5 miles of the campground that Josh said he took his 2 kids that night. If they left their house around 12:30, that means they'd be getting to this area around 2 a.m. Imagine right down in that area is where Josh and his 2 sons were allegedly camping on the night of December 6th. It's end of January, but I can imagine early December there was even more snow. It's bitter cold, and it doesn't look like there's many people camping here.
Well, our legal analyst Lisa Bloom is with us today, and this has some chilling messages in your mind, does it not, Lisa?
Sure, and let me speak plainly. I think that Josh's alibi is preposterous, it's outrageous, and it's an insult to our intelligence. Nobody can really believe that he would take 2 little children out camping in the middle of the night. But there may be a germ of truth in it, just as there was a germ of truth in Scott Peterson's story, because unfortunately, Lacey's remains were found in the bay where he said he had gone fishing. And I do believe that Josh Powell probably did take a long ride that night with the boys in the car. And unfortunately, that may have been where he disposed of his wife. But we really can't believe anything that he said. His story is so far beyond the pale. And his refusal to be part of the search, his refusal to cooperate, his clamming up, his moving out of state when people are still looking in the state for his own wife, none of that adds up to anything good for Josh Powell.
We have to take a break right now. When we come back, a father whose daughter has been missing for 14 years. Now, he believes that her husband murdered her. Her body has never been found. He has some things being further down the road than Chuck and Judy. He has some things that he wants to share with them and why he says he's done it all wrong and thinks that they are about to make some of the same mistakes. We'll be right back. here today talking about the disappearance of Susan Powell. Now, don't let that just be a name. We're talking about a mother. We're talking about a daughter. We're talking about a sister here. We're talking about someone that has been taken away from two precious children. And I've been talking to these parents about how do you cope with the unknown? Do you accept the harsh reality? How do you handle the grandchildren? What would you do if you were in this situation? Now, my next guest has dealt with this firsthand, and he wants to talk to Susan's parents. His name is John Green, and his daughter disappeared nearly 14 years ago. She, too, had two small children, and he has no doubt that her husband murdered her in front of one of her daughters.
Back in October of '96, my son-in-law told me that my daughter Kimberly walked to the nearby gas station to get a pack of cigarettes and she disappeared.
Kimmy was my stepdaughter. We were really close. It was devastating just to be going through it. It was just horrible.
The day before Kimmy's disappearance, she told her immediate supervisor that her husband Mike had threatened her, and if she was so much as 10 minutes late to work, to call the police because she feared for her life. Several weeks after her disappearance, my oldest granddaughter drew a very horrific picture that went into the hands of social services of her mother in a hole, dead, and pink. I was certain of foul play then. Social services figured Mike to be a fit father, and the children left with him and vanished. In 2005, Mike Medina had been arrested. I learned that he had drowned his 16-month-old son. Mike is serving a 48-year sentence in prison. While they were looking for him, his live-in girlfriend, Becky, explained to the police department what had happened to Kimmy. Mike drove her to this area where he had dug a shallow grave, and Mike had a miniature bat and beat my daughter nearly to death and then put her in this hole. He laughed as he put the last shovel full of dirt over Kimmy's face while she was gasping for air. The saddest day in my life was when I heard that officer from the department got up on the stand and started talking about what he did to my daughter. I haven't seen my granddaughters for 3 years now. I would really love to talk to Nika about the picture she drew of her mother in a hole, but I don't want to get blamed for putting words in her mouth.
We were afraid that if we talked to them about it, it would hurt the investigation.
I'm really afraid of saying something wrong, and that blows something else in the lines of indicting Mike for murdering her mother. My wife and I were watching the news and saw what had happened to Susan Powell, and I could not believe the similarity of what happened with my daughter.
The most important thing for Chuck and Judy to not lose touch with their grandkids.
Don't let anybody convince you that you don't have rights, and don't be told you don't have rights. I spoke with my oldest granddaughter briefly on my cell phone, and I told her about going to the Dr. Phil show. And for a minute I heard something that I wanted to hear. She was happy. She wanted to talk to me. She wanted to see me, and I want to hear that again. I want to see her.
Well, John is joining us now. Did you make a mistake with your grandchildren?
Terrible mistake. You know, the authorities insist on you following their rules, and I did, and I swear to you, if there's anything you should never do, I don't care what they tell you, the bond cannot go away. Ever, 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 ever. Don't let anybody tell you you don't have the right. You do. You're the only bloodline on that side that exists that has that right. Remind them about their mother. Speak of her. Show them pictures. My granddaughters vanished for 7 years after social services said their father was a good man, even though he had a record 2 times, was arrested. But he was this wonderful person and vanished for 7 years in my life. Not a word, but don't let the grandkids ever, ever, ever out of your heart, your sight. You've got to be there.
What do you think about what John's saying? He's been through this.
I think it strengthens my resolve to make sure that that doesn't happen. We will. We will be seeing him. We will be talking to him, no matter how it feels or what it takes.
You know, I think the thing that, and you know, John's telling you from personal experience, you let them push you away from your grandchildren because you were afraid, as they are, that police are saying, you know, don't get in there. They'll use that to say you came in and told them this. You came in and programmed this. And so, but yet nothing ever came of it. It's just in the process, you lost out on those grandkids. When we come back, we're going to hear why John believes that Susan's boys may have witnessed what happened to her. We'll be right back.
Still no sign of a police officer's wife. Peterson's husband, Drew, says she left on her own.
Overnight, I went from being a watch commander to being a mother of four. I gotta tell you, the mom job is much harder.
He's more of a friend than a dad, and other times more of a dad than a friend.
Does it defy logic that a mother of four could just walk away from her own children?
Yes, it does, very much so.
Do you think she will ever reappear?
Why would anybody want to come back to this hellstorm that's been created?
That clip was from an interview I did with Drew Peterson, who is charged with the murder of his third wife and is a suspect in the disappearance of his fourth wife. Now, Chuck and Judy's daughter, Susan, has been missing now for over 2 months. John Green knows this scenario firsthand and has been living with his daughter's disappearance for nearly 14 years. Now, John believes his granddaughter actually saw her mother's murder. You say that because of the picture that she drew.
We were babysitting my granddaughters in the first 2 weeks of Kimmy's disappearance. And my oldest granddaughter was with my wife in the bedroom, and she looked over the back of the bed and looked at my wife and said, "Mommy's dead. Mommy is pink and in a hole." Obviously, that gathered a lot of excitement, the police, social services, everybody else. And it was just days after that when she drew this picture. She drew an actual picture of her mother in a hole. Kids know things. I don't know to this day if she still remembers drawing that picture. I've never asked her. I've never put myself in that position again, fearing messing up the investigation. Whether my granddaughter remembers it or not, it's something that's got to be instilled in her mind to some degree. I mean, she's 16 years old now. She's heard this story.
And you don't know what the police have learned from your grandchildren. You don't know what they're
No, we don't.
And the police won't tell you that.
No, not the details.
Have you been raising all Billy hell with them and demanding that they pursue him?
Actually, the police are actively investigating, and I know that there's no need to raise anything with them because they're all over this case. I know that they're doing everything they can.
Have you asked your grandchildren what they saw or knew?
No, and that's I would like to.
Are you afraid of the answer?
I'm afraid of the answer, and I don't know, is that something you should ask a 5-year-old? How do you ask that without coercion, without tainting their views?
I can tell you that soon after I finished my training with my PhD and internship, I did a year's postdoctoral training in forensic psychology. And I can tell you that there are professionals that are well equipped and have the tools to do a careful and sensitive interview of your grandchildren, to minimize trauma, but to maximize whatever information may be there. Because if they don't know anything, then there's no trauma to be had. If they do, they're living with that inside them, and they need to talk about it. And Lisa, there are reasons that the police haven't moved on this yet, correct?
Because a good, skilled defense attorney at trial can say the grandparents coached these children into making statements. If they say one thing to the police and they elaborate on that in the conversations with the grandparents, the defense attorney is going to twist that all around. So you're absolutely right, a skilled forensic examiner, and I would also add videotaped. So there's never a dispute later about whether they were coached, whether they were misled in any way.
And then once the police actually make an arrest, it triggers a number of time-sensitive deadlines that could put them in a box when they actually need more time to gather more information. True?
That's right, and I think that's why the police have not yet arrested Josh. They probably have probable cause now, but they don't have proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and so they're waiting, and I can assure you they're following him. They are tracking his phone calls. They have a GPS on his car. They are watching everything that he does, hoping to find more evidence. They're probably also waiting for the snow to melt in the spring and hoping they might find some evidence at that point.
We have to take a break, but up next, we all remember the disappearance of Elizabeth Smart, which is a beacon of hope for everyone because she was found. Her father, Ed, is going to join us next and talks about how he behaved when he was under suspicion, and it was far different than how Josh is acting now. We'll be right back.
A family devastated, father distraught, now hoping his daughter can still hear him.
We love you. We want you to come home safely to us.
As the search widens for Elizabeth Smart, Salt Lake City is doing all it can to help find her. Police say a man broke into the house and walked into Elizabeth's bedroom. They say he took her while her parents were sleeping.
Relatives say she was taken at knife point.
Police found Elizabeth Wednesday at this intersection just 20 minutes south of her Salt Lake City home. She was disguised in a wig and veil and walking with Brian David Mitchell and his wife, Wanda Elaine Barzy.
Elizabeth is happy. She is well. And we are so happy to have her back in our arms.
Well, the miraculous return of Elizabeth Smart captured all of our hearts and gave us hope again. I mean, Elizabeth's father, Ed, knows exactly how Chuck and Judy feel, and he also knows what it's like to be a person of interest like Josh. Now, Ed is joining us now by Polycom video from Salt Lake City, Utah. Ed, thank you so much for joining us today. This is very important.
You bet. It's great to be.
Well, listen, you've been following this story, I know. I guess, and I want to hear what you have to say to these parents here in just a moment, but I'm curious to hear what you did when you were a very routine person of interest in a disappearance, as anyone close to the person would be. How did you behave in terms of cooperating with the police as compared to Josh's complete lack of cooperation with the police now?
All about finding Elizabeth, and it didn't matter what the police wanted. We wanted to do whatever it would take to find her because nothing was more important to us. That just doesn't keep pace with Josh. I mean, who would leave their wife missing Christmas time and just act like he didn't care?
Yeah, it just defies logic at this point. And interestingly enough, Josh has hired the same attorney that represented one of Elizabeth Smart's kidnappers, Wanda Barzy. So that connection is there as well.
Worked with Chuck a number of times, and you know, our prayers go out to him, and I know he's held out faith, hope that he is still out there. But it certainly is difficult with Josh really not participating at all.
Yeah, it's just, I can tell you from a psychological perspective, he is not behaving like an innocent person. He is just not behaving like an innocent person. Are there other reasons for that? I suppose there could be, but he certainly isn't. And I know that it's got to be a beacon of hope to y'all to know that these things do turn out well sometimes, and Elizabeth was found. You're involved in some very important work right now in terms of pushing and sponsoring some legislation. Can you give us just a kind of a 30-second capsule of that?
You bet. The Surviving Parents Coalition has been working on a piece of legislation called DNA upon felony arrest. That means that when somebody is arrested, they'll take the DNA just like they take fingerprints, enter it into the database so that crimes can be resolved, that lives can be saved. And there's a controversy over whether this is an infringement on privacy, but when it comes down to saving life and preventing other lives from being hurt, it's something that needs and has to happen.
Well, we're going to put a link on our website to more information about that, and we thank you for doing all of that work. Ed, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you, Dr. Phil.
We'll be right back. Shelby, if you would, tell us a little bit about the foundation.
Our family has started the Susan Cox Foundation. The world knows her as Susan Powell, but we've always known her as Susan Cox. So we'll be starting the Susan Cox Powell Foundation. It'll be an opportunity for us to provide some early education about domestic violence, the signs of it, so that our teenagers can use good choices when they're entering into long-term relationships. They can recognize the violent behavior. They can recognize the signs that come inevitably before we see an act of physical violence. It'll also be a forum for linking the different resources around our country. We'll be able to network different organizations like our foundation, like Ed's foundation, Surviving Parents Coalition. There are resources out there that are so vast, but they don't talk to each other. So our goal will be to provide those.
All right, well, good. Well, listen, I told you at the top of the show, I thought this was a very important day. I want to thank everybody that's weighed in today. Chuck and Judy, our hearts are with you, obviously. You're in all of our prayers. Thank you, Shelby, for being here. Jennifer, I know you're in a tough spot here. Kirk, I appreciate your weighing in on all of this. And also thanks to John Green. I know it's easier not to think and talk about this, but I'm so glad that you came here and shared with them. And I hope you all consider what John has had to say and what I've had to say about this. And, the best possible way to keep your sanity is to find something active to do. If you sit home waiting for the phone to ring, I can tell you it will make you crazy. It may seem insignificant, but you have to do what you can. Being here today, talking about this, keeping the bright light on, all of these things can accumulate to a good result at some point. Also, special thanks to legal analyst Lisa Bloom. Thanks for weighing in on this. I know you've seen so much of this. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Susan Powell, please contact police at 801-840-4000, 801-840-4000. And Josh, if you're watching this, listen, there are people that are dying inside right now. This is going to come to light. If you have information about this, please, please talk to this mother and father, talk to your sister. Do the right thing here. Your children are depending on it. Now, if you have any information regarding the disappearance of Kimberly Medina, please contact Senior Investigator Paul Goodman with the Attorney General's Office, 303-866-5331. Let me say it again, 303-866-5331. For more information about today's show and these cases, go to drphil.com, or you can reach me on my blog. You can send me a message on Twitter. If you know anything about this, we want to know it. Don't waste our time with prank calls, but if you know something, please share that information. Thanks for being here. So long. fighting over something except it isn't dead yet. Is it really worth it? Plus, did you hire an attorney to declare your son incompetent?
For the first time ever.
You said no, when in fact you and I both know you did.
Why was Dr. Phil pushed to the edge?
I'm done. I'm done. Coming up. Let's do it.
I want you to get excited about your life.
Here we go.
Stand by, camera 6.
If you're going to talk to me, you're going to have to be honest.
Stand by, Dr. Phil.
Showtime. This is going to be a changing day in your life.
Stand by A and roll A. Check in. Go, Dr. Phil.
When you imagine getting an inheritance, you probably think all your problems are solved, right? But today, you're going to hear why it can be more trouble than it's worth. We're talking to families who are fighting over the will. Now, my first guest, Amber, says her grandma should put her mom's name, Devine, on the land. But her grandma's 84, and she says, I believe I'll just keep this till I die. Take a look.
My grandmother is 84 years old, and she's very selfish and controlling. My family has 2,000 acres of land in Saskatchewan. It was originally owned by my great-grandparents.
My husband and I were married in 1944. We were married 60 years, and when John passed away, the farm, the land, the machinery were left to me.
My father distinctly told my mother that if anything happened to him, she was to put my name on the land, so there'd be no inheritance tax. And that didn't happen.
Did you talk to her about putting your name on the land?
Yes.
Because my mother's name isn't on the land, it could cost her upwards of $500,000 to keep the land.
It's not that I don't trust Devine, but to put a name on a joint ownership of land, that gives either partner privileges.
I think my mother thinks that I will sell the land, which is not ever going to happen.
My grandmother thinks that we want to get our names on all of her stuff and put her into some psychiatric ward where she has no food and water and she dies.
If you have a stroke tomorrow, there is no way we can access your bank accounts, access the security box. We can't even change your phone because our names are not on any of your accounts and we don't have the paper to show it.
I think my mother's just mean-spirited, but Amber thinks she is absolutely possessed.
After my grandfather died, we started to talk about what needed to be done as far as the land. My grandma went ballistic. She kicked us off the land.
This nice little lady that you see here is not a nice little woman, trust me. This is a conniving woman. This is a woman who, if she gets a phone number, could talk to the Pope.
After my husband died, my granddaughter demanded that I make a will out immediately in favor of her mother. I was still grieving my husband's death, but Amber didn't take that as an answer. She flew at me like a mad chicken, and I got stubborn too.
I've told her right out, I said, you are a bitch. I'm afraid of her. I'm afraid of her threats. She is so violent and so vulgar. She'll slam doors.
My grandmother will say things like, I don't care what happens to the land. I don't care if you guys have to pay taxes on it.
Like, why does she want to take this away from us? It's not just hers, it's ours as well.
I want the girls to have the farm when I'm gone, but while I'm living, I want to have the control.
Dr. Phil, how do we get my grandmother to give my mother joint custody of the land?
Well, this is not going well, right?
Oh, it's not working for us.
What's your relationship been before all of this? You've not gotten along well all along, right?
There are times when the girls come back individually, when they come home, it's fine. But when they get together, it seems as though they seem to be scheming constantly on the farm and the ranch, yes.
Really?
Yes.
And they say that, what was it you said, she's possessed?
I don't think she's possessed. I mean, my mom said that I think she's possessed. I think she's just selfish, and she's mean-spirited, and she always has been.
How do you feel about your granddaughter describing you that way?
I'm surprised. I'm so surprised that Amber feels that way.
She's been controlling all my life, and I would probably imagine all her life.
So what is it you want her to do?
When my grandfather, before he passed away, he had us all in a room, and he said, the land right now is jointly with my grandmother and my grandfather. When he died, he wanted the land to go jointly with my grandma and my mom. For them to be jointly because of capital gains, because of taxation. And that way it will just roll over without the government taking land or taking money, that kind of stuff. So that's, for me, it's just logical. It's not.
So what do you want here?
I want to know that our land that I was born and raised on is protected.
So do they need to protect themselves against you?
Not a bit. I've done everything I can. I've made the will out.
This is the farm, the land?
Yes, I've made the will out to my daughter. She will get everything when I'm gone. What do they want me to do?
So you want them to just leave you alone?
I want them to leave me alone. When I'm gone, it'll go to my daughter.
Do y'all feel funny at all about fighting over the stuff before she's still here?
Yes.
I mean, she seems pretty spry and pretty sharp.
She's sharp and she's spry. She's spry, trust me.
Yeah.
But what she doesn't understand is this tax, and it would just roll right over. There would be no going through.
Do you know that for a fact?
Yes.
Because I've done some research on that, and they tell me that's just not true.
Okay. I talked with Revenue Canada just a few days before I came down.
What'd they tell you?
And they said that when I'm gone, it's turned over to my daughter, that will be no taxes on that. There'll still be no capital gains as long as she has that land, and if she sells it. But after that, then there will be a capital gains on that land.
Yeah, do you believe that?
I believe part of it, but it has to be registered in my name, and that's where the money comes in when you go to re-register it into my name.
Is it really important enough that y'all are just, I mean, it's like, it's got a feel of like vultures fighting over something, except it isn't dead yet.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and that's kind of, you got to feel kind of funny about that.
I feel terrible about it. I really do.
Because you've asked her to do several things. You've asked her to change your will, because your will left everything to your husband, and now he's deceased. And so y'all said, you need to change your will. And you did.
Yes, I did.
And you said, well, but what happens if you become incapacitated? There needs to be a power of an attorney.
Right.
I want you to draw up a power of attorney giving me the control and right, correct?
Not ask for myself, but for someone in case, because she insists on going to Arizona for 6 months a year, and we're worried that something may happen to her there, and then who would know if anything even happened?
Okay, and you did that?
Yes, I told the girls I did that. They needed me for a long time. I have a lawyer. I talked with him. I said, this is what I want to do. I want to put my daughter's name on this power of attorney, but the girls wouldn't believe me. They refused to believe me.
You also at one point told me that you put her name on the land, and then it's like you delayed time. No, that's what you said.
No, you don't just put a name on the land.
But that's what you said to buy, and I feel it's because you were trying to buy time before you could take off on your little jet to Arizona.
What do you mean, get on your little jet to Arizona? If that's what she wants to do,
well, she can.
What business is it of yours?
She can. Well, then stop controlling me. She tries to control me. For 33 years, she's tried to control me, and I've said, no, you're not controlling me anymore.
Well, now wait a minute. How does somebody control you?
Emotionally.
Well, isn't that your choice?
I don't look at it when I was 8 years old. Okay.
Well, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to see whether Aileen should sign this farm over to her daughter before she dies, and we're going to talk about some of these other issues when we come back.
Whenever we talk about the land, there's always a huge argument.
I don't know what else I can do to please the girls. I've made Devine power of attorney and executor of the will.
She told me she gave me power of attorney, but I'm beginning to doubt that.
My mother and I have no proof whether my mother has power of attorney for my grandmother, because my grandmother will not let us see any legal documents.
No, I didn't show it. The lawyer's got a copy, and I've got a copy in the safety box. They have given me the impression that I am a controller and a meanie. I don't like that.
My daughter and I detest her.
Well, today we're talking to families who are fighting over the will. Now, in this case, everybody's still alive, so the will hadn't kicked in yet. Aileen is 84 years old, spry, sharp, her granddaughter, Amber, wants her to put her mom's name on the farm now, even though she's set to inherit it when Grandma's gone. Now, Amber and her mom say it's just to save taxes, but Grandma says she's worried if she lets them put one foot in front of the tent, what will stop them from putting both feet in the tent? So you think they're being greedy?
I would like a little more respect from them in this case, and I do think that that's all I'm asking, is some respect.
And y'all, I get the opinion that y'all's position is, okay, she's coming on here like sweet little old grandma baking cookies and just wanting to take care of everybody. But you turn these cameras off, she's going to take a hide off of you. She's pretty smooth. She comes in here, sits there like Aunt Bee, and everything's just fine. I mean, is that pretty much the deal?
That's exactly.
That's exactly the deal.
She doesn't trust me whatsoever.
If my daughter said, I absolutely detest him, I don't think I would trust her. I mean, that's not a good thing to say about your mother.
It isn't, but I worked for 30 years for them and worked hard. And I thought that they trusted me.
You said, quote, we want the land for sentimental purposes and possibly to put a development on.
Because then at least it'll still be in our family. After I die, there's nobody else. I'm the last living line.
What is it you resent about her getting on her little jet and going to Arizona?
I don't resent her going to Arizona. I think I just resent her.
Well, you said she insists on going to Arizona for 6 months a year. She gets on her little jet and off she goes.
Yes.
And you said that she controls you and that you spend half of your life on welfare because of her.
And that's a conversation they need to have because she was really the one on welfare. I was a child, so I was 8 years old.
I came back to the farm to work for my father, but I didn't get paid.
Okay. And of course, you don't agree with that.
No, I
You think
don't.
she got paid in terms of a house, cars, gas, expenses, fuel, horses, land? How am I doing?
You're right on. You're
Yeah.
right on. When Davine came back to the farm with wee baby Amber, they were given a place to live. They never paid taxes. They had the full swing of the farm. They never went to work. I suggested many times our daughter, she's had a good education. They wouldn't work. Neither one of you worked.
I worked steady. I worked many hours a day.
Davine did work on the farm. She drove the tractor. I drove the tractor. I drove a combine.
What this all boils down to is, to set the land aside for a minute, y'all don't like her. You love her, but you don't like her.
Yes.
You feel a duty to take care of her.
With me, it's a love-hate.
But you don't believe that she's drawn a power of attorney.
I have no idea.
Didn't you just say that you did a power of attorney?
Yes, I did.
And didn't you know that?
Yes,
You told us before the
when
show
I
that,
went to see my
that she wouldn't
lawyer-
let you see it, but you knew that she did.
Well, I told him, I said, I've been to the lawyer, talked it over, I've made out the power of attorney, and we don't believe you, Grandma. I called my lawyer and asked him if it was necessary for me to show the girls the power of attorney papers. He said, it's not necessary. It's not necessary to show anyone. You've got it. I got a copy.
Well, I believe you. Okay, so you ask her to change the will, you ask her to do power of attorney, you ask her to do the insurance.
Well,
She's done all of those things. Okay, so all of this is because you think you can save, you said, what, $300,000 in tax?
Yeah,
or something like that?
Well, in the switch or rolling over.
Even if you do, is it really worth it? Is all of this really worth it to have this between you?
Because when I'm gone, the will read, it goes automatically to Davine. She gets it all. And what she does with it is entirely up to her.
Okay, so what you want is that you don't have now is what?
I want to be reassured that if something happens to her, that we can make decisions for her.
Okay, if you knew that, would you then be
that's
called?
That's all we've been asking for, is that we know this is so.
You're asking for more than that. You're asking for that, and you want her to put your name on the farm.
Well, I'd like to have the
okay, and if she
joint
does that,
ownership.
then of course your ability to do whatever you want to with the farm is compromised. You can't do that once you put somebody else's name on there.
Well, no, and it's not so easy to do that. It took me a month to take my husband's name off.
But you're just not comfortable putting her name on the farm right now.
At this present time, no, not the way things have unfolded here.
All right, certainly. And that's your prerogative, and you say there's going to be tax involved, which I don't think that's avoidable anyway. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just saying I asked the questions and got the answers, and they said no, that they don't have inheritance tax there. What they have is a probate fee, and then they have a capital gains tax.
Yes.
And you found out that that's not avoidable. I've found out that's not avoidable. You're all saying it is avoidable, but I don't think that's right.
Well, there are ways of getting around it if we all cooperated.
All right, but she's not comfortable with that, and you're going to inherit enough cash to pay that anyway, and you say what you're all really interested in is just the land anyway.
Yes.
Okay, and that's not in jeopardy here.
No, the land is in jeopardy. Not that we wouldn't lose the land, like we'll get it.
Okay, so that's what you're really worried about.
What?
And then you say you wish you had a power of attorney so you knew if something happened to her, and she's told you that she drew a power of attorney.
Well, just now, today is the first I've really not learned.
I've told them, my lawyer said, tell them you've got a power of attorney, Eileen. You don't need to show them a copy. Tell them you have power of attorney.
Is there some reason you didn't want to show them?
Not in particular, I just had the copy, but when they said, we don't believe you went and made a power of attorney.
I really don't care who the power of attorney is, quite honestly, as long as she has somebody that will be the power of attorney. I don't care if she makes you the power of attorney, just as long as she has somebody, and I would gladly do that.
Would you like a farm with horsey
It's you and me and that farm, darling.
Yeah.
No, the truth is, you did do a power of attorney, correct?
Yes, I did.
And you are named in a power of attorney.
I didn't know that till
you know
just
it now.
Yes.
Because I've seen it.
Okay. Good. See, I didn't know.
I've seen it. And because you trust me,
Yes.
so you let me see it. Right?
Doesn't trust me.
And there is a trust issue here, and there would be a trust issue with me if I were you. I think you're thinking very clearly. And I think that y'all want me to agree with you, and I don't. And I don't know all the history. I know you're saying, oh, she's just sweet and she's conning everybody in North America right now. I understand that, but what I also understand is this your farm, you do with it what you want to. Now you have said that it stays in the family and goes to you on your passing. You've said that she's power of attorney, so if you lose competency through stroke or incapacitation or anything else, that you have the ability to step in and act in a responsible fashion. Right. And that's in place, and I think y'all need to be happy with that and get on with your lives. Yeah. That's my view. Okay? All right, next, a teenager who inherited a large sum of money when his dad died. Find out why his mom is taking him to court. We'll talk about all that when we come back. Thank you so much. I want to talk to you today about relationships, and the truth is that most of the time they start out pretty good. We do that because we have a shared definition. We have shared priorities. Think about a parent and a child. They just love each other and nurture and protect. Husband and wives, they start out in love and things are going to be great. But as life goes on, experience causes our focus to change sometimes. Money issues get involved, friends, marriages, divorces. A lot of life decisions that your other party might not be comfortable with can really cause distance between the two. My advice is this: if you have a relationship you value, it has to transcend the dailies. It has to sit high enough up that it's not brought down by the things that happen on a day-to-day basis. Don't speak the divorce word in an argument. Don't get involved where you're delivering ultimatums and putting your relationship on the line every single day. My next guest, Tracy, says her son came into a large inheritance this year when his dad passed away. She says it wasn't the money that changed her son, it was his long-lost best friend. The two boys packed up and took off without Tracy, who feared they'd just go out and spend all the money, just blow everything. Take a look.
My ex-husband, Mark, died April 4th. He left our son, Mark, a sizable life insurance policy through the military. We set up bank accounts with me and Mark's name. We counted everything as each other.
Man, I'm really sorry.
Mark and Brandon were childhood friends until Brandon was like 12. They parted ways because Brandon was choosing the wrong path. About a year and a half ago, they rekindled their friendship. I noticed a change in Mark's behavior. I told him I felt Brandon may have something to do with it. My son would start to get a little short with me. Mark told me that Brandon had asked him if he got any life insurance from his father. I feel like Brandon wants control over the money.
I was absolutely friends with Mark before he had the money, and the money didn't make any difference in how I felt about Mark.
My son and I had a dream to go to North Carolina. Brandon decided that he wanted to go also.
We got the idea that we don't really need her to go with us. I mean, we can do it ourselves. US 31 down
to 65.
Mark and Brandon left without me. Mark! I was pretty shocked and pretty hurt and pretty mad. I know Brandon pressured Mark to leave because Mark would have never left if it was just him. Mark doesn't even know how to get to North Carolina. A couple days later, the bank notified me that Mark was having the balance faxed to somewhere in North Carolina. I was afraid of the money being drawn out. I went down there to move the money into an account with my name alone on it.
I really couldn't believe my mom denied me access to my money. My father did leave me as the sole beneficiary.
Brandon has been messed up in drugs and actually had done drug activity. It shows a lack of character. Brandon wants to live in a place worth a lot more money than what he could afford on his own. Mark inherited a car from his father. Brandon has been driving that car. Brandon was influencing Mark to the point that he wasn't even himself anymore.
My mom's taking me to court to try to gain guardianship over me. And essentially what she's saying is I have a weak mind.
Until Brandon is out of his life and Mark is showing maturity and responsibility. Mark doesn't need to have his money. The money is there for Mark's future and for his family.
Well, Tracy feels like Brandon is a bad influence on her son, but she thinks Brandon's picking up skills that he's learned from his mom, Joy. Take a look.
I've known Joy quite a while. A lot of the issues with Mark's childhood friend, Brandon, come from what he's seen through his mother.
She gets so hysterical, it's very hard to reason with an unreasonable person, and she's using my son as a scapegoat.
I know that Joy and Brandon are influencing my son, Mark.
Tracy is delusional. She just imagines a lot, and she takes a little bit of truth and exaggerates it in her own mind.
You'd talk to Joy, and the next day, everything that would come flying out of my son's mouth would be the exact same words. You know, like psycho and delusional, and now I'm standing up to you, Mom.
I think this is probably the first time that Mark has stood up to his mother and said, this is my money, that was my father, this is my future, I'm gonna make my own choices.
She said, you're psycho, Tracy, you're just psycho. She was glad that Mark was getting a backbone to stand up to me.
I really think Tracy is blaming Brandon because she really needs to be in control. When Mark and Brandon went out to Carolina, they crossed Tracy. And once you cross her, she just goes spastic on you.
She'll do about anything to promote her interests. I just don't feel like she's an honest person.
I can't imagine that Tracy is looking out for his future. Immediately after Mark's dad died, I saw Tracy going out buying things. Now let's remember she's spending Mark's inheritance.
Me and my son, Mark, regarded this money as a blessing from God for trying to live right even though we were struggling.
Tracy does use God to rationalize everything, but most of the time what God's telling her is what Tracy wants to hear.
So, what's up here? I mean, Mark, are you being irresponsible with your inheritance?
Absolutely not. I mean, I was just extremely responsible with my money, and I haven't shown irresponsibility with it.
Well, your mother thinks that you linking back up with Brandon, y'all were friends from childhood, right?
Yeah, we've been
since we were about like 5
or 6 years old?
6 years old.
All right, and you got involved in some drugs and went in a bad direction,
yeah,
right?
I got really involved in drugs for a while, but then I definitely got away from that.
So you're out of that at this point? You're clean and sober and have been for a good while?
Yeah. He's been clean and sober and Tracy knows this, for like a year and a half.
There wasn't a problem until after the money came.
No,
that their friendship and there was no change in Mark till after the money came.
But that's incorrect.
Prior to that,
Tracy, that's
and there
not
had been
correct.
no change in
They
Mark's
were still
behavior
friends
at
and
all
things were
until the
fine
money
until
came.
they decided not to tell you.
Honestly, I can say
said
for
that to
one that me and Brandon's relationship did not change after the money.
You're the one that invited Brandon back into your life, right?
I agree. I've tried to help Brandon his whole life he's around because his mom's been absent.
Tracy,
and
that is
Brandon,
so not
this
true.
is a conversation me and Brandon have had
You
over,
are not
haven't we,
gonna tell me
Brandon?
that I've been absent from my
Yes, we have,
son.
Brandon, haven't we?
I've
About
been
how
to
she
hell and
hasn't
back
been
with my
around, how
son.
none of the kids even had a full bed in the house. You left these kids unattended
Tracy, this
when
is
they were
not a
little with
smear
their
campaign
grandmother.
on Joy
I'm
today,
sorry,
okay?
but
This
Joy,
is about
this
you
is the
taking your
reason
son's
why
money.
this has came into us. But no,
Okay, time out. The question is Brandon really a bad influence, and also his mom, or is Tracy blaming him because she just doesn't want to be without Mark? Is she jealous of that intrusion? And how does the money play into all this? We're going to talk about that when we come back.
My ex-husband, Mark, died. He left our son a sizable life insurance policy. My parents loaned me money to actually get the divorce. So when we got this money, it was prayed that I could pay my parents back.
My mom brought up the idea that I'd pay Grandma and Grandpa for her divorce bill, which was $7,000. I don't really feel like my mom's divorce bill is my debt.
Well, today we're talking to families who are fighting over the will, impacted by money that gets involved. Tracy says when her 19-year-old son came into a sizable inheritance, the two of them agreed that it was their shared money. Tracy says now she and her son are fighting over this inheritance, fighting over what she thinks he's doing with his life. She thinks his best friend Brandon and Brandon's mother Joy are to blame for Mark trying to skip town, spend the money, leave her behind. True or false?
false. Mark, I have been planning for a whole month for Mark to go down there.
And Brandon.
Excuse me, Joy. Me and Mark were moving down there, and Brandon decided he wanted to go. And Mark was going to rent a room to him. That was fine. We said that was fine. I'm the one who decided not to go on the trip initially because my grandpa passed away.
Did you ask for $7,000 to pay your parents back for your divorce?
When we had agreed, and Mark was wholehearted about it, and also because my parents, we didn't have any money, and my parents would take him on cruises. We could never pay them back for everything they've done.
All right. Have you then spent $10,000 of that money to hire an attorney to declare your son incompetent?
I retained an attorney under the advisement of the attorney because they left a phone call on my phone saying they went to an attorney and what I did was a felony and they were going to throw me in jail.
Okay, would that be a yes?
That was a yes.
You took $10,000 of Mark's inheritance to hire a lawyer to declare him incompetent so you could take over his guardianship as an adult.
Where are you coming up with that figure of $10,000?
Is it $10,000?
It's been retained.
Because
it's not been spent.
You actually said that you hadn't spent any of my money at all for anything.
No, I did not. I said I did not, Mark. I said.
Well, I'm coming up with the $10,000 because that's what you said, that it was $10,000.
That's true.
I'm not opposed to helping Mom out, but honestly, when we were in North Carolina and I noticed that I had no access now to any of my money except for like $700 to get home, I honestly that was a betrayal of my trust, and I just have difficulty trusting Mom with all my money.
Let me throw something in there because
go
I
ahead.
feel like our side's not being heard, and Mark's doing a very good job. But, you know, as a parent, I love my son, and, you know, I won't even go there with Tracy's smear campaign. This had been planned for 6 weeks. This was not a spontaneous, they decided to go to North Carolina. Anyway, they go to North Carolina. Tracy says she's so concerned about Mark, and she's so concerned about his well-being. She was so angry because they ticked her off that she turns her phone off, won't even answer her phone for 3 days. But as a concerned parent, if my 19-year-old son is in another state, I think the least I would do is find out what's going on.
Okay, but if this is between the two of you, how are y'all in this? And are you, in fact, influencing Mark? Are you talking negatively towards Mark about his mother? Because you're sure talking negatively about her now.
Absolutely not. I called Tracy when they were in North Carolina and said, would it be possible for us to meet and talk about what we can do to make this right? Because I don't want any tension. Tracy's been my friend.
All right. I'm going to take a break. And then when we come back, I want to hear, Brandon, what you have to say. We'll start with you, because if you get the floor first, then maybe you have a chance to say something. All right. Should Tracy make Mark choose between his friends and his money? And should Joy just mind her own business and step out of this? We'll talk about all that when we come back.
to get some money wired out of my account. And the bank said, well, there's been some reworking of some funds. You don't have access to it. I knew my mom had done it.
When my son left me a message telling me that I committed a felony and was going to be put in jail, I mean, I bawled, and I was horrified because I didn't even recognize Mark as my son. I felt like Mark's childhood friend, Brandon, was influencing him.
Mark definitely has a mind of his own. He's definitely not my puppet.
Well, today we're talking to families who are fighting over wills, money. Tracy says that she and her son were set to share an inheritance that he had received from his father, her ex-husband. Now, she says it all changed when her son left town one day with this best friend, Brandon, and left her behind. Now, she then put all his money into her own bank account. True?
No.
Okay.
I just want to say, yes, I did move the bulk, but there are other accounts that, yes, he can get to.
Well, it just bothers me when I ask you that you said no, when in fact you and I both know you did. What did you want to say?
I just wanted to say that you kind of implied that like we shouldn't be involved with this, and I completely agree with you. I don't want to be in the middle of this.
Well, I didn't kind of imply that.
Oh,
I'm saying it's none of your business.
That. But I don't, this isn't any of my business, and I don't want to be part of it. I just came to defend myself.
Yeah.
And I want to say that I will butt out, okay? I agree with you. This isn't about me. I haven't even been, my son and Mark live with my ex-husband. I haven't been involved in this at all.
You say that you don't say bad things about her, but you've said you think she's delusional, vindictive, angry, struggles with finances, can't handle it at all, and is attacking your son.
And I believe all those things. Now, have I said those to Mark? No. But do I believe that Tracy really struggles emotionally? I've known her for 20 years. She does. She has some real emotional issues, and I think that once you cross Tracy, she has a way of blowing the whole situation up.
I just think that it was an overreaction.
At this point, what do you want to see happen? Do you have access to your money now?
I don't have access to my money, and like for instance, I couldn't move and get a place to rent now if I wanted to.
Okay, so you've now hired a lawyer who has sent a demand letter to your mother saying you've got to return this money by X date or we're going to sue you for that. So are y'all going to sue each other here? You're going to sue to declare him incompetent, which by the way will follow him the rest of his life every time he tries to get a job anywhere if he's declared incompetent for any reason.
If that's the truth, I won't do that.
And you're going to, well, what do you think?
Well, I was not, I took
if you're kind of going through somebody's in history and you find that they were declared incompetent at some point, that's not a plus on a resume.
Well, honestly, if that's what it comes down to, then no. But well, the reason for the,
I'm sure that
please,
your lawyer explained it to you.
No, he did not explain that to me at all. The reason it's for incompetence, it's not declaring Mark incompetent, it's unreasonable influence.
Well, the paper lists me as an incapacitated person.
That's because that's legal terms they have to use. But it says because of being around, because of undue influence, seeking to use money for their own expenditures, which I've sent tons of paperwork to show and prove that.
What have I done to show
that? The other
that?
thing I please want to say is...
Okay, I've got to take a break. We're going to take a break, and then I'll let you pick up where you are if you'll promise to.
I'll try to.
All right, can Mark and Tracy agree on something outside of the legal system, I guess is the big question, or are we going to have an ugly court battle and the inheritance is going to go to the lawyers? We'll talk about that when we come back. Talking about will fights today. Now, on my right is Tracy and her son Mark, and on my left is Joy and her son Brandon. Now, Joy and Tracy used to be friends. They've known each other for a long time. Their sons, Mark and Brandon, are best friends now. But Tracy says Brandon is a bad influence on her son, Mark, now that he's come into an inheritance. Is the bottom line here that Mark has come into an inheritance and you want to be sure that it isn't squandered on his part, and then he comes to his senses later and says, oh my gosh, I went through this inheritance. You're trying to protect him from squandering the inheritance right now, and you think the best way to do that is to limit his access to it. So at his young age, not being able to see around corners, that he doesn't go out and spend the money.
Yes.
Okay, you think, no, I'm not irresponsible. You went to North Carolina to go to college?
Yeah.
Were you admitted to the college before you went?
I found out that I wasn't accepted like a week before I was supposed to leave. So.
But you went anyway?
So I went anyway.
To go to a college you can't get in?
No, just to live there and be, out of the house and all that. And, I mean, enjoy independence.
Okay. Because, look, here's what's going to happen. I know how much money is involved here. It's a substantial amount of money, but it isn't enough to retire on. In some amount of time, some finite amount of time, the money's going to be gone. And what you're going to be left with is the relationship and whatever damage you're doing to each other now.
I mean, what my plan was is not to rely on that money and to invest it and not use it. I mean, that was always the plan.
The two of you who have had a good relationship historically, correct? You've had a productive relationship, true?
Well, yes.
And you agree?
Absolutely.
Okay, but now this is here, and so it's fractured the relationship, and you both have hired attorneys to protect yourself from your mother and from your son. That can't seem right to you.
Well, I mean, I certainly do not prefer to do that.
I'm not protecting myself from my son. There's no reason to protect myself from my son.
Well, he's getting ready to sue you. And you said that's why you went to a lawyer, because you got a letter. And so you said, I had to go get a lawyer because I got a demand letter from a lawyer from my son, and I had to protect myself. If he gets this money and blows it all, is this worth it?
It's not worth it except that 3 times this summer, my son, after meeting with financial advisors, investors, he hung his head down and he said, Mom, this is such a big responsibility. He said, I don't want to lose it.
You want to talk about the money. I want to talk about the relationship.
No, it's not worth it.
If worst comes to worst and he blows it all, is it worth being estranged from your son?
No, it's really not. I mean, I've gone back and forth with just giving it to him, except that if I do
well,
that,
actually, it's not yours to give to him.
Well, I mean, put it back in the account.
Where it rightfully belongs?
Where I could put it, yeah.
Yeah, because you don't have a right to the money now. It was his inheritance, and he's 19, and it's his money. And that's a problem with parents who leave money to their kids without safeguards in place. But I mean, that's where you are.
I can put it back and let him have it. But
it's not your choice.
What I'm saying is expenditures are associated with them.
It's not your
what'd you say with them?
They are associated with you and him, not you.
I have never taken a dime. I have nothing to gain from this at all.
It is, but you understand, it's not your money.
I understand. I just hate to reward behavior that's gone on that I've seen. I hate to reward that, but I might have to.
Are you going to get your money back?
Well, I believe so, yes.
And are you going to invest it and not live on it and squander it on vacations?
I mean, I have a job right now, and I was planning on having a job or going to school.
Okay. And you know you can get your money back. I mean, it's legally yours.
Right.
And this is, you can't sustain this transfer unless you want to try to declare him incompetent, which A, I don't think you can do, and B, I think would be a real bad mark.
It wasn't incompetence for him. It was incompetence because of the financial decisions. But just, I don't want people to think I'm saying he's crazy, because I respect him. He is a wonderful kid.
Hold on.
He is. He always has been.
We'll be right back. Okay, we've been talking today about money and inheritances and wills, and you guys were watching this. You don't want to go there, do you?
No.
Okay. So can we go home and just forget about this?
Yes.
You got to. Okay. And I hope that you two will sit down, just the two of you, and kind of talk about how to get your relationship back on track. There's not enough money in the world, and there's certainly not enough money in this situation to warrant what's happening between you. William Burford, you are a trust attorney and a will attorney, and you've been a great resource to us in this show and helping us do this. This usually goes pretty smoothly, doesn't it? Wills and trusts?
After death, there's often some of the differences that may have lurked under the surface can come out, and I think that some of those things, that money is not always the issue that is going on, but it often generates the legal disputes.
It's just a battlefield that's there. But you can solve a lot of problems with pre-planning, right?
Absolutely.
For more information on this, go to drphil.com. We'll have some good points for you there, as well as a link to William Burford, where in LA area you can get some good information. Thanks for being here. So long.
It's something unpredictable that wears me out. And in bed. India wears you out in bed? Oh my. Brain is on fire, much like your body at 30C where you live in Australia. It's allowed. Before OK Computer even came out, so I'm very, very cool. Oh, is that why you're cool? Okay, good to know. Just give me a chance, Punch. Wait, how do I not have enough? What if I did math wrong? Good to know I did math wrong. Thank goodness. I feel like I'm about halfway through on my deep dive. So I mean, the other problem is that I do a lot of these a lot of listening while walking. So I don't always see song names when these things happen. No worries, Echidna. You know you're always welcome to chat with me later if you want. You always have kind things to say to me. I can always say kind things to you too. These are way too small. Those will be my burned ones. It's fine. All right, so we got a couple less because I don't math well. Okay, now, where's the book? Where's the book? Sorry, I'm reading. I was not supposed to add flour. I didn't read. Okay. I am not putting saran wrap on this. We will put a clean towel on. I will clean off my counter. And then we will get back to chopping vegetables for... Oh, I need to see what the oven needs to be. And redacted for wrong words. No worries, Echidna. Parasocial... Yeah, there's a lot with this friggin' website. And with just online friends... Okay. Now. I'm going to wash my hands. We're going to give our leeks another rinse. We are fun weird here. That's very true. I'm a little bit weird. It's okay. I like me. And if you don't like me, you can go scratch. Bye. Always rinse your leeks. For weird. Is that fun weird? Is that how you've... Shining right above you, night brings a seam time to whisper I love you. Birds singing in the sycamore tree. Have fun not being weird. Fair. Toodles, Paunchy! Enjoy your supreme pizza when it comes out of the oven. Just hold me tight and tell me you miss me. Alright, I think I got all of the dirt. All of these. I hope I did at least. Well, be weird, baby. And buy in bed. Oh my. Oh my. Paunchy's in bed with India and useful? Ugh. Trying to just get some of the flour off my computer. Not what I meant. Oh, I thought you were leaving. I'm glad you're not leaving. Yay, Paunchy. I've missed you. I haven't chatted with you and had you annoy me in stream like I annoy you. He ain't leaving. He's stuck with us. All right, let's rinse these off one more time and chop some more things. You do not want gritty leeks. Nobody wants a gritty leek. BRB. Whatever, baby. Where'd I put the beef? Where'd I put the beef? Here's I put the beef. Here's where I put the beef. We got a lot of stewed beef. Thankfully, it was on sale. You're still technically... Punch! It's month end, motherfucker. I need you to get a new fucking job. This place is taking advantage of you. Absolute advantage of you. Look at this beautiful stewed meat. I don't know what that means, Therma. Nope. I don't know. Yes, no, I'm confused. Now, I did buy this yesterday, so it did get a little... Oh, okay. I will allow that. That's fair. That's very, very fair. Hang on, hang on. Nope. I just... So I guess it technically was. I got it at the meat section of Whole Foods. It was already cut. Yes. Did I do something not to your appreciation, Punch? For the amount of meat I needed. tell me what to do, Punch. We're going to brown everything up.